Sit comfortably in a meditation posture and close the eye. Let's put our attention on the silence that's always there deep in the mind. This silence is even beyond the mind. This is the silent witness. Always available, always there. This is who you really are. Become the silent witness. Just have that intention. Now listen to the words of the Yoga Vasishta. Book 4, chapter 38. Continue with verse 15. He who knows the self, the silent witness, remains joyous even in his calamity and shines like the moonlight which enlightens the world. He knows that it is the mind and not the silent witness that is the agent of his actions. Although the body is the doer. Knowing that the mind is the agent in all his actions, he does not assume to himself the merit of the exercise of his limbs, hands, and feet. Nor does he expect to reap the rewards of all his constant labors and acts. Unrestrained minds become unrestrained agents. Their mental actions, the thoughts, become habits. And their endurance brings about the consequence. We all find the thoughts in the mind are there by habit. As we connect with the silent witness and become the silent witness, there is still the sense that the mind must think, that the habit must continue. That is the nature of habits. But when we connect with the silent witness, truly become the silent witness, we let go of everything that is not the silent witness. And by doing that, the habit of thinking is broken. It can be broken quickly. It is this habitual thinking of the mind that is at the root of all efforts and exertions, of all acts and actions, of all the results and productions, and the source of suffering, the consequences of actions. By doing away with your mind, you make a clean sweep of all your actions, and thereby avoid all your miseries resulting from your acts. All these are at an end. With the trance of the mind is at an end. It is a practice in yoga to relieve the excitement of the mind from its ever varying purpose. See how a boy is led by the fancy of his mind to build his toy or hobby horse, which he dresses and paints in his vocal play, without showing any concern or feeling of pleasure or pain in its making or its breaking, however he pleases. So does man build his aerial castle and level it without any sense of gain or loss. When we connect with the silent witness, letting go of the mind is easy. There's no sense of loss to be established in the silent witness. Live in the moment and not be engaged in thinking. It is by his acting in this manner and in all worldly matters that no man is spiritually entangled to them. When we become the silent witness, we do not make a mood of being detached or being without thoughts. If we find that we are thinking, oh, I'm not thinking, then we are not established in the silent witness. In the silent witness, there is no thinking, no reaction, no connection with the physical world or any part of the illusory universe. The silent witness is the eternal now. And when we slip into the silent witness, it feels so perfect. It is who we are. Amidst the dangers and delights of this world, what cause can there be for your sorrow, other than you have the one and not the other? But what is there so delectable and delightful to be desired in this world, that at the same time is not imperishable, impermanent? Only yourself, the silent witness, which is neither the active nor the passive agent of your actions and enjoyment. Although people attribute actions and their fruitions to it by their error. The importance of actions and emotions in living beings is a mistake and not verifiable truth. If we consider things correctly, we find no action or emotion having any relationship to the silent witness. Only one embedded in the mind feels attachment or aversion to the senses and conscious actions and enjoyment. Not those who are embedded in the silent witness. There is no liberation in this world for those who are worldly minded. While liberation is fully realized by the yogi, whose mind in its state of living liberation is jivan mukta, free from attachments to the world. Though the age is established in the light of his self-consciousness, yet the enlightened is aware of the distinction between unity and duality. The true entity from the non-entities. He sees the omnipotence in all powers that are displayed in nature. To the enlightened, there is no bond or freedom, no liberation or bondage, whatever. And the miseries of ignorance are all lost in the light of the enlightenment. It is in vain to wish for liberation when the mind is tied down to the earth, when we are identified with the body, when we believe the story of the mind. So it is redundant to talk of bondage when the mind is already fastened to it. Transcend them both by ignoring your individual ego and remain fixed in the silent witness. Continue in this way to manage yourself. Always established in the silent witness. The silent mind. As your body lives on this earth. Chapter 39. Vashishta postpones the question of impurity to purity, the unity of all things. Rama replied, "Tell me, O high-minded sage, how could creation proceed from the supreme Brahma when you describe as remaining as still as a painting in the canvas of emptiness?" Shishta replied, "O Prince, such is the nature of Brahman, that all power constantly flows from him. Therefore, every power is said to reside in him. In him resides entity and non-entity. In him there is unity, duality, and plurality and the beginning and end of all things. This is the one and nothing else. It is like the sea, whose waters have endless varieties of shape. It represents the images of myriads of stars in its bosom, rising spontaneously of themselves. As consciousness becomes dense, it makes the mind, and the mind brings forth all the powers of thinking, willing, and acting. These it produces, accumulates, contains, shows, and then absorbs itself. Brahman is the source of all living beings and of all things seen around it. His power is the cause and exhibit that exhibit all things in their constant course or quiescence. All things spring from the Supreme Spirit, and they reside in his all-comprehensive mind. They are of the same nature as that of their source, like the water of the sweet and salt lakes. Ram interrupted and said, "Sage, your discourse is very dark, and I cannot understand the meaning of what you're saying. There is the nature of Brahman, which you said to be beyond the perception of the mind and senses. Then what are these perishable things, which you say have proceeded from him?" If your reasoning comes to this conclusion, then I cannot rely upon it. It is the law of production that anything produced from something is invariably of the same nature with that of the producer. As light is produced from light and grain comes from grain. Man is born of man, and all kinds come out of their own kind. Therefore, the production of the immutable spirit must also be unchangeable and spiritual in their nature. Beside all this, the intellectual spirit of God is pure and immaculate. The creation is all impure and gross matter. Upon hearing these words, the great sage said, "Brahman is all purity, and there is no impurity in him. The waves moving on the surface of the sea may be foul, but they do not soil the waters of the deep. Ram, you cannot conceive of there being a second person or thing beside the one Brahman, just as you can have no conception of fire beside its heat." Ram replied, "Sage, Brahman is devoid of sorrow, while the world is full of sorrows. Therefore, I cannot clearly understand your words when you say this to be the offspring of that. Valmiki said to Bharadwaja, at these words of Ram, the great sage Vasishta remained silent. He stopped his lecture and he contemplated. His mind lost its accustomed clarity. Then, recovering its clear vision, he pondered within himself in the following manner. The educated and intelligent mind that has known the knowable one, has reached the end of the subject of liberation by its own reasoning and intuition, as that of Ram. It is no fault of the educated to have questions until it is explained to them to their full satisfaction, as in the case of Ram. The half-educated man does not fit to receive spiritual instruction because their view of phenomena, which dwells on various objects, proves to be the cause of their ruin. But he who has come to understand in a transcendental light, and who has a clear insight of spiritual truths, this person is established in the silent witness and feels no desire for sensual enjoyment, and instead advances in course of time to the conclusion that the silent witness is all and in all things. First, the disciple has to be prepared and purified with the teachings and practice of stillness and self-control. Then he has to be initiated in the creed that all this is Brahman, and you are that pure spirit. But whoso teaches the faith of all is Brahman to the half-taught and ignorant truly entangles him in the strong snare of hell. This is because when one is told all is Brahman, before having connection with the silent witness, that one will connect with the mind and pretend that all is Brahman. And this pretending adds another layer of illusion to the already illusory world, creating even a greater entanglement. So we always teach the silent witness after we have directed the mind to transcend beyond the physical world. This is why we teach dharana first. Dharana, the thinking of the mantra, causes the mind to transcend the world. The physical world is left behind in the vibration of the mantra. Then we can connect the student with the silent witness. Now we will continue as the silent witness. watching the conscious thinking mind and starting the process of Trimana Sanyama to powerfully dissolve and balance all karmic traces that have been enlivened by today's reading. Jai Gurudev.